My brother, Mike, has always been the wild one in the family. Ever since we were kids, he was the one who broke curfew, lied to my parents, and somehow got away with it every single time. I was the responsible one, the good kid who did what was expected, never caused any trouble, and generally kept my head down. But a few months ago, Mike crossed a line, and this time I wasn't going to let slide. It all started with this big family trip to the beach. My parents, my sister, my brother, and me, everyone was excited about it. And I was even looking forward to spending some time away from work. But as usual, Mike had other plans. The week before the trip, he called me, saying he had a huge favor to ask. He needed money, and a lot of it. Mike's been in between jobs for the past year, and every time he calls, it's always for the same reason. He's broke. This time was different, though. He was asking for $5,000 to cover some emergency expenses. Now, I love my brother, but I've been burned so many times before. I've lent him money multiple times, each time with promises to pay me back. But guess what? I've never seen a dime. So when he asked again, I told him no. I told him, Mike, I can't keep doing this. You're an adult now. You need to figure this out on your own. Mike didn't take it well. He went off on me, calling me selfish, heartless, and accusing me of not caring about him. He said that if I really loved him, I'd help him out. That family is supposed to support each other. And I'll admit, his words hit me. I started to feel guilty. But then I thought about all the times I'd been there for him, all the times I'd bailed him out, and how nothing ever changed. But Mike didn't stop there. He started texting my parents, telling them I was being unreasonable and that I was refusing to help him. My mom called me up, clearly upset, and said, Ryan, why can't you just help your brother out? You've got the money, and he really needs it. Don't you care about him? I could feel my blood boiling. Mom, I care about him more than you think. But this isn't about money. He's not learning anything by me constantly bailing him out. This is the same pattern over and over again. He's not going to change if I keep enabling him. My dad chimed in, telling me I was being too tough on Mike. He's your brother. Help him out, or you'll regret it. But I stood my ground. I refused to give him the money. That weekend, as we all packed for the trip, Mike was noticeably distant. He barely spoke to me and gave me the cold shoulder the entire time. The tension in the car was so thick, I could feel it pressing against my chest. We arrived at the beach house, and things didn't improve. Mike kept making passive-aggressive comments about how I was the rich one, and how it must be nice to have everything handed to me. At one point, while we were out walking along the beach, he finally exploded. You know, you're just like Dad, always looking down on me. You think you're better than me because you've got a stable job and can manage your money. But I'm trying. You don't get it. The anger I've been holding back all week finally spilled out. You think this is easy for me? I've worked my ass off to get where I am. I didn't just sit around waiting for people to give me handouts. I made sacrifices. And you know what, Mike? You're not trying. You're making the same excuses over and over again. I'm not going to keep cleaning up your messes. He was quiet for a moment, then muttered, Well, thanks for nothing. You know better than everyone else. You just wait. One day, you'll see how much you need me. It stung, but I knew deep down I had made the right call. So, I guess my question is, AITA for refusing to help my brother, even though I know he's in a bad place? The next day was a disaster. After the fight, I tried to avoid Mike as much as possible. I knew the trip was supposed to be a way to get away from the tension of the real world, but it felt like it only magnified everything I was running from. The sun was out, the waves crashing in the background, and yet I felt like I was drowning. Mike barely spoke to me, only muttering when he needed to. Emily kept trying to play mediator, but it was clear that whatever had been between Mike and me was already broken. No matter what I said, I couldn't undo the damage. I tried to enjoy the trip. I tried to sit by the water, to breathe, to relax, but every time I turned my head, I saw Mike staring off into the distance, looking like he was in a better place than I was. Maybe he was. Maybe he wasn't, but it didn't matter. The gulf between us had never felt wider. By the end of the week, I had made up my mind. It wasn't the money that had hurt the most. It wasn't the fact that Mike had asked for a handout again. It was that he had made me feel like I was the one in the wrong for protecting myself, for setting a boundary. He'd manipulated the situation to make me feel guilty, and I let him. But no more. I was done. On the last night of the trip, we all gathered around the dinner table, and my parents, as usual, tried to make light of everything. But it didn't take long before the elephant in the room became impossible to ignore. Mike, with his usual sarcastic smile, took the first shot. "Guess who decided to be the responsible one?" he said, looking directly at me. "Ryan, of course. The family's perfect little golden child." I could feel my heart rate spike, but I held my ground. I wasn't going to let him push me around anymore. "Mike, I'm done with this," I said, my voice steady. "I'm done being made to feel like I owe you something. You've been using me for years, and I'm done." The table went silent. My dad looked at me, disapproving. "Ryan, that's not how we talk to family." "No," I said, my voice rising slightly. "That's not how you talk to family. You've always let Mike get away with everything, and I've been too scared to stand up to you. But not anymore." I stood up, ready to leave. I didn't care if anyone understood. I was tired of living my life to appease people who didn't respect me. "Where are you going?" my mom asked, her voice sharp. "I'm going home," I said. "I'm done." My sister Emily, who had been quiet this whole time, stood up too. "You're leaving? In the middle of the trip?" "I don't need this," I said, glancing at her. "I don't need to be treated like this by my own family." "I'm sorry, Emily, but I've had enough." And with that, I walked out of the house, grabbed my things, and headed to my car. My phone buzzed in my pocket, but I didn't check it. I didn't care who it was or what they wanted. I was done being the one who always caved. The drive home was quiet. I didn't turn on the radio. I didn't need distractions. I just needed to be alone with my thoughts to process everything that had happened. I thought about Rachel. I thought about how I'd failed her, how I'd let my family's expectations dictate everything I did. I thought about all the times I let Mike walk all over me because I was scared of losing my family. But in the end, that fear had kept me stuck, and now I was finally free. By the time I got home, it was late. The house felt empty. I dropped my bag by the door and sat down on the couch, staring at the empty walls. The phone buzzed again, but I didn't answer. I wasn't ready to talk yet. I spent the next few days avoiding calls and texts. I needed space to think, to figure out what I wanted. I knew the situation with Mike was going to blow up, but I didn't care. It was about time someone put their foot down. The following week, my parents called. I ignored their calls at first, but after a few days, I decided I should face them. I didn't know what I was walking into, but I had to at least hear them out. I met them at a coffee shop, the three of us sitting in a corner booth, their faces already showing the disappointment they couldn't hide. "Ryan, you can't just cut off family like that," my mom said, her voice soft but firm. "Mom, I don't think you understand," I said, trying to keep my voice even. "Mike has used me for years, and every time I try to help, it's just been more of the same. He hasn't changed. I can't keep enabling him, and I'm not going to be the one who gets hurt again." My dad crossed his arms, looking at me like I had betrayed him. "You've always been the stubborn one. You always think you know best." "I don't think I know best," I said quietly. "I just know that I can't keep pretending everything's fine when it's not. You don't see it, but I do. You let Mike walk all over me, and I let it happen because I was afraid of losing you. But now I'm not afraid anymore." Silence hung between us for a moment. Finally, my mom sighed. "We just don't want to lose you too." "I'm right here," I said, "but I'm not going to keep sacrificing my happiness for people who don't respect me. That includes Mike, and that includes you guys if you can't see it." My dad rubbed his temples. "This isn't easy for us to understand, Ryan. We've always had our way of doing things." "Well, it's time for a new way," I said, standing up. "I'm sorry, but I can't keep going around in circles. I made my choice." I left them sitting there, unsure of where things were headed. But for the first time in my life, I felt like I had control over my own decisions. I don't know what the future holds with my family. Maybe they'll come around, maybe they won't. But I know one thing for sure. I'm not going to let them break me again. And if that means I have to walk away from them, then so be it. CTA, if you felt that and want to hear more real stories like this, don't forget to hit like, and subscribe. It's quick for you, but it helps me out a ton. And make sure you check out the rest of my videos. You won't want to miss what's coming next. I never thought my relationship could go downhill so fast. When I first met Rachel, I thought I had it all figured out. She was the one I wanted to marry, the one I wanted to build a life with. We've been dating for almost 2 years, and everything seemed perfect. At least, that's what I told myself. We met in college. I was a junior, she was a senior. Our first date was nothing special, dinner at a local diner, where we both ended up laughing about how terrible the food was. She had this way about her, a carefree, easygoing nature that made everyone around her feel comfortable. She was popular in that effortlessly charming way. Her friends loved her, my friends loved her, and everything felt perfect. But then things started to shift. Slowly at first, I noticed that Rachel would go out more often, with friends from work or school. It wasn't a huge deal at first, but when she started coming home later and later, I began to feel like something was off. When I asked her about it, she'd smile and shrug it off, saying she was just hanging out. Still, I didn't press it. I trusted her, but my gut kept telling me something was wrong. It all came to a head when I decided to surprise her with a spontaneous weekend getaway. I've been planning it for a few weeks, saving up money to make it special. We went to a cabin up in the mountains, just the two of us, hoping to rekindle some of that early magic. But that weekend, things were different. Rachel was distant, distracted. She kept checking her phone, texting someone privately. And every time I asked her who it was, she'd just say, "Oh, it's nothing. Just a friend." It felt like she was shutting me out. And I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more going on than she was letting on. I didn't want to accuse her without proof, but everything in me screamed that something was wrong. The breaking point came when I found the receipts. I was cleaning up the cabin before we left when I found an envelope stuffed behind the couch cushions. I figured it was just some old receipts or paper she'd shoved there, but when I opened it, I froze. There were several receipts for a restaurant I didn't recognize, a fancy, upscale place about 30 minutes away from where we lived. What caught my eye wasn't just the fact that it was an expensive place, it was the dates on the receipts. The dates matched up with the weekends Rachel had been out with friends. There were even receipts for meals she had supposedly missed while out with me. But they were all there in black and white. Rachel had been lying. I tried to swallow the nausea rising in my throat. My first instinct was to ignore it, to just leave it be. Maybe I was overreacting, but the more I thought about it, the more the pieces started falling into place. I confronted Rachel that night, sitting in the car on the drive back from the mountains. I wasn't angry at first. I was confused, hurt, and more than anything, I needed answers. "Rachel, can we talk about something?" I asked, my voice shaky. She looked at me, half smiling. "Of course, what's up?" "I found the receipts," I said, trying to keep my tone level. Her face immediately went pale. I could see the panic in her eyes. She opened her mouth to speak, but stopped herself. "What do you mean?" "I mean, I found the receipts for that restaurant. The one you've been going to. When you've been out with friends." The silence that followed felt like a punch to the gut. Rachel didn't say anything at first. She didn't try to deny it. Instead, she just stared out the window, biting her lip. And then, she dropped the bombshell. "Look, it's not what you think," she said quietly. "I didn't want to hurt you." I waited, my heart pounding in my chest. "Then what is it, Rachel? What's going on?" She finally looked at me, her eyes filled with guilt. "I've been seeing someone else." For a moment, I couldn't breathe. It was like the world had just frozen. My mind was screaming, but all I could do was stare at her, waiting for the words to sink in. "I didn't want to tell you like this," she continued, her voice cracking. "But I've been having an affair for the last few months. I didn't mean for it to happen, but it did. I didn't know how to stop." The words stung, each one feeling like a slap across the face. My body went numb. I thought I might throw up. "Why, Rachel? Why would you do this? After everything we've been through?" She shook her head, tears streaming down her face. "I don't know. I never meant to hurt you. It just happened. I can't believe this," I whispered. "How long? How long has this been going on?" "Since February," she said, barely audible. "It's been going on for a while now, and I've tried to end it, but I couldn't. I was shaking now, my breath coming in short bursts. So this whole time, I've been living a lie? You've been lying to me? I've been sitting here thinking we were fine while you were with someone else. Rachel didn't answer. She just sobbed quietly in the passenger seat. I felt like I was suffocating. Every word she said, every piece of information just made it worse. I wanted to scream, to punch the steering wheel, to make her understand how much she had destroyed me. But all I could do was sit there, frozen, heartbroken. That night, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to move forward, or even if I could. All I knew was that everything I thought I knew about our relationship had been a lie. The next few days felt like I was walking through a fog. I kept replaying Rachel's words over and over in my head. I've been seeing someone else. The more I thought about it, the more the anger inside me built up. I had given everything to this relationship. I had believed in it, trusted her, thought we had something real. And now, it felt like all of that had been shattered in an instant. I stayed in bed for the first 2 days, unable to function. I ignored calls from my family and my friends. I just couldn't deal with anyone. My mind was too clouded by the betrayal. But eventually, I knew I had to face reality. I couldn't hide forever. So, I called Rachel. She answered on the third ring. "I need to see you," I said, my voice cold and distant. There was a pause on the other end. "Ryan, no, Rachel. I need to see you. We need to talk face to face." She agreed, and we set a time to meet. I didn't know what I was going to say to her. I didn't know what I even wanted out of this conversation. But I knew I had to see her one last time. I was sitting in a cafe when she walked in. She looked the same. Her blonde hair falling in loose waves, the same look of guilt in her eyes. But I didn't see the woman I had fallen in love with anymore. I saw someone who had betrayed me, someone who had torn my world apart. She sat across from me, but there was an awkward silence between us. Neither of us knew where to start. "What?" I finally asked, the question slipping out before I could stop myself. "I don't know," she whispered, her voice shaky. "I'm sorry. I didn't want it to happen. It just did." I shook my head. "You're telling me that after 2 years, after everything we've been through, it just happened?" Rachel stared down at her hands. "I don't expect you to understand. But yes, it did. I made a mistake, a huge one, and I regret it every day." "You regret it?" I repeated bitterly. "Do you regret enough to fix it? Or is this just something you'll keep doing?" She was quiet for a moment. Then she looked up at me, her eyes filled with tears. "I don't know. I never meant to hurt you. I never meant for any of this to happen. But I've been unhappy for a long time." My chest tightened. "So, this isn't about me? This isn't about us? This is about you?" She nodded, the tears spilling down her cheeks now. "I'm so sorry, Ryan. I've been confused. I thought I was doing the right thing, but I wasn't. And now I've lost everything I care about." I felt a pang of something. Maybe pity, maybe sympathy, but it wasn't enough to erase the anger I felt. I had trusted her, and she had broken that trust in the worst possible way. "Why didn't you just talk to me?" I asked, my voice quieter now. "Why didn't you tell me you were unhappy? Why go behind my back?" She shook her head, wiping her eyes. "I was scared. I didn't want to hurt you. And in my messed up head, I thought it would be easier if I just kept everything inside. But now I see how wrong I was." The guilt in her voice hit me like a ton of bricks. But I still couldn't shake the feeling that I had been nothing but a pawn in this game. "I don't know if I can forgive you, Rachel," I said, my voice trembling. "I don't know if I ever will." She looked at me, her face pleading. "Please, Ryan. I know I've messed up. I know I hurt you. But I'm asking you to let me make it right. Please, give me a chance." The desperation in her eyes made my heart ache. For a second, I almost considered it. I almost thought about giving her another chance. But I couldn't. I couldn't keep sacrificing my happiness for someone who had no respect for me. "You broke my trust," I said, standing up to leave. "And I don't know if I can ever get it back." Rachel didn't try to stop me as I walked out of the cafe. She didn't run after me, didn't plead for me to come back. She just sat there, crying quietly. And I realized in that moment that I was done. The next few weeks were a blur. I moved out of our apartment and stayed with a friend for a while. Every time I thought about Rachel, a part of me still felt the hurt. I missed her, the woman I thought I knew. But the truth was, she had never really been the person I thought she was. I focused on myself. I threw myself into work, into my hobbies, into anything that took my mind off the pain. And slowly, but surely, the sharp edge of the betrayal began to dull. But there was still a part of me that wondered if I had made the right choice. Could I have worked through this? Could Rachel and I have rebuilt our relationship? The answer, I realized, was no. Some things, once broken, could never be fixed. If you want to hear more stories like this one, make sure you hit like and subscribe. You don't want to miss the next one, and it helps me keep sharing these real-life moments. Stay tuned for more. I thought I knew what love was. I thought I had it figured out. But nothing could have prepared me for the heartbreak that hit when I least expected it. Lena and I had been together for 3 years. When we met, it was like something clicked instantly. She was everything I thought I needed. Smart, funny, passionate, and fiercely independent. We both had big dreams, and together, we thought we could conquer the world. I remember the first time she smiled at me across the bar. I knew right then that I would never be the same. We got close fast, faster than I probably should have let myself. But there was something about her, something magnetic that drew me in, made me forget all the red flags I should have seen. Our relationship felt like a whirlwind, full of excitement, deep conversations, and nights that seemed to stretch forever. For the first year, it felt perfect. We traveled together, shared our hopes and fears, and grew closer. But the cracks started to show. I noticed that Lena had a pattern. She'd become distant, pull away without any explanation. And every time I asked her about it, she'd just tell me she was fine or busy with work. At first, I didn't push. I figured it was just her way of dealing with stress. But soon, I started to feel like I was being left in the dark, like I wasn't the person she came to when things got tough. And then, the texting started. I'd see her on her phone, laughing at something, quickly putting it down when I walked into the room. At first, I told myself I was being paranoid, but my gut told me something wasn't right. I had never been the jealous type, but that nagging feeling kept growing. One night, after Lena went to bed, I grabbed her phone from the nightstand. I knew it was wrong, but I couldn't help myself. The moment I unlocked it, I saw a string of texts that stopped my heart cold. There, in plain sight, were conversations with a guy I didn't know. They were flirtatious, full of inside jokes and emojis. And then a message that made my stomach churn. Can't wait to see you tonight, babe. Miss you so much. I froze. My hand was shaking as I dropped the phone on the bed. My mind raced, trying to process what I had just seen. Lena wasn't just texting someone. She was having an affair. I couldn't believe it. I still didn't want to believe it. But there was no denying what I had just read. I stayed up the rest of the night, my mind spinning. I wanted to confront her, but I didn't know how. I had never imagined this would happen to me. I thought we were happy. I thought we were together. But now, I felt like the ground had been ripped out from under me. The next morning, Lena woke up to find me sitting on the couch, staring at the wall. She immediately knew something was off. "What's wrong?" she asked, her voice sweet, like she had no idea that I knew what was going on. I looked at her, my heart pounding. "Who is he, Lena?" Her face went pale. She didn't answer right away. Instead, she took a deep breath, and then, slowly, she said, "It's not what you think." "Really?" I snapped, standing up. "Because from where I'm sitting, it looks exactly like what I think. You've been seeing someone else behind my back." She opened her mouth to protest, but I didn't want to hear it. I didn't want to hear her explanations, her excuses. "Who is he?" I demanded again. Lena's eyes welled up with tears. "His name is Tom," she whispered. "We've been talking for a while. It started as just friends, but it turned into something else." I felt like I had been punched in the chest. Tom. I didn't know who he was, but I didn't care. The fact that she had been lying to me for months, keeping this secret, hurt more than anything else. "You've been seeing him behind my back for how long?" I asked, barely able to keep my voice steady. Lena hesitated. "For about 4 months." I couldn't breathe. For months. That was an entire portion of our relationship that I had no idea about. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and worst of all, I felt like I had been made a fool. I never meant to hurt you, she said, her voice shaking. I didn't want this to happen. I love you, but I don't know. Things with us started to feel like they were falling apart. And Tom was someone who paid attention to me, who made me feel special. Her words felt like daggers in my chest. I wanted to scream, to cry, to throw something, but all I could do was stand there numb. So what now? What were we supposed to do? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Lena stood up and walked toward me, reaching for my hand. Ryan, I don't know. I didn't want this. I didn't want to hurt you, but I'm so lost right now. I don't know what I want. I pulled my hand back, stepping away from her. No, you don't get to make excuses for this. You made a choice, Lena. You chose him. And now, you need to live with it. Her face crumpled, and she started to cry. I'm sorry, Ryan. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean for this to happen. But it didn't matter. None of her apologies would change what had just happened. The trust between us was shattered. And in that moment, I knew that nothing could fix it. The days that followed were nothing short of a nightmare. I don't think I slept more than a few hours at a time. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Lena with Tom. I saw their messages, the pictures they shared, and the lies she had been feeding me for months. I thought I'd be angry, and I was. But mostly I felt empty. This wasn't just about the affair anymore. This was about everything we had built together, all the promises we made to each other, the future we thought we had. And now, it felt like I was standing at the edge of a cliff, looking down at the ruins of everything I once believed in. I spent the next few days avoiding her calls. I couldn't bear to look at her, let alone talk to her. Every time I saw her name pop up on my phone, my heart would race, and the pain would shoot through me like a bolt of lightning. It was too much. I wasn't ready to face her, not yet. But then, on the fourth day, I got a text from her. It was short, simple. Can we talk? Please. I stood there, staring at the screen for what felt like an eternity. I wanted to ignore it. I wanted to block her number, to pretend like she didn't exist anymore. But I couldn't. I knew I had to face this. I had to confront her, not just for me, but for what we had lost. So, I agreed to meet her. We decided to meet at the same cafe where we had shared so many memories. The place we went when we first started dating, the spot where we'd laughed about stupid things and talked about the future. It was ironic, really. I arrived early, sitting at a table in the back, waiting. My hands were clammy, my stomach was in knots. I wasn't sure if I was prepared for this conversation, but I knew it had to happen. When she walked in, my heart skipped a beat. She looked different. Her eyes were red, and her face was pale. I could tell she had been crying. It was hard to look at her, but it was also hard not to. She was still the woman I loved, the one I thought I knew. She sat down across from me, her eyes immediately finding mine. Ryan, I don't even know where to start. I didn't say anything at first. I didn't know what to say. I just stared at her, my chest tightening with every second that passed. I'm so sorry, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I never meant for this to happen. I never wanted to hurt you. I could see the pain in her eyes, but it wasn't enough. I didn't know how to forgive her. I didn't know if I could. You did hurt me, Lena, I finally said, my voice low. You hurt me in a way that I can't just forget. I trusted you. I loved you. And you threw it all away for someone else. Her lip trembled, and I could see the tears welling up in her eyes. I never wanted to lose you. I didn't know what I was doing. Tom was there for me when I felt like I was losing everything, and I didn't know how to stop. It just happened. I don't care about Tom. I snapped, frustration creeping into my voice. This is about us, Lena. You could have talked to me. You could have told me if something was wrong, but instead, you kept it a secret. You lied to my face. She looked down at her hands, the shame and guilt evident in her posture. I know, and I regret it every day. I've been so stupid. I don't know how to make it right. I took a deep breath, trying to keep the anger from bubbling over. You can't make it right, Lena. You can't just undo what you've done. You've broken something that can't be fixed. Her eyes welled with tears again, and she reached out, but I pulled my hand away. Please don't, I said quietly. Don't act like everything can go back to the way it was. It can't. I know, she whispered. I know it's too late for that. But please, I need you to know I never wanted to hurt you. I'm so sorry, Ryan. I felt the weight of her apology, but it didn't change the fact that I couldn't trust her anymore. The person I thought I knew wasn't who she really was. The woman I had built my life around had betrayed me in the worst possible way. Lena, I said softly, the words feeling heavy in my mouth. I don't think we can fix this. I don't think I can fix this. Her eyes flickered with shock and hurt. So this is it? You're just going to walk away? I looked at her for a long moment, trying to read her face, trying to figure out if there was any part of me that still wanted to fight for this. But all I saw was someone who had broken my heart, and that was something I couldn't come back from. I can't walk away from myself anymore. Lena, I said, standing up. I've been losing myself, trying to hold on to something that wasn't real. I have to let go. Her face crumpled as she stood up too, her voice trembling. Ryan, please don't go. I love you. But I didn't look back. I walked out of the cafe and into the cold night air, feeling the weight of everything that had just happened settle into my bones. For the first time in a long time, I felt free. Free from the lies, the heartbreak, and the constant feeling of being suffocated. I don't know what the future holds. Maybe I'll heal. Maybe I won't. But right now, I know I've made the right choice. If you've made it this far, and these stories are hitting home, don't forget to hit like and subscribe. It helps me bring more real-life drama and moments like this to you. Stay tuned for the next one. It was the text that changed everything. I had no idea what I was walking into when I opened my phone that afternoon, but one message, one simple line of text, would rip apart everything I thought I knew about my family. I had been married to Lisa for almost 5 years, and for the most part, we were happy. Or at least that's what I thought. We had our ups and downs, sure. Every couple does. But for the most part, we had built a life together that felt solid. Lisa and I met when we were in our 20s. I was working as a barista at a local coffee shop, and she was a regular customer who would come in every morning for her usual, a caramel macchiato, no foam. She was always friendly, always had a smile on her face, but I never imagined anything beyond small talk. One day, she walked in and asked me if I'd like to grab a coffee after work. I was shocked, of course, but I said yes. From that moment on, it was like everything clicked. We were both ambitious, both creative, and had the same weird sense of humor. It felt easy, like we were meant to meet. So, when I got the text that day, I was in complete disbelief. It wasn't from Lisa. It was from my best friend, Jake. The message was simple. Hey man, I don't know how to tell you this, but Lisa and I have been seeing each other for the past 6 months. I'm really sorry. I never meant for this to happen, but I think you need to know. My heart dropped. My stomach twisted into a knot. I thought I was going to be sick. I read the message 3 times, thinking I was misinterpreting it. There had to be some mistake. Jake had been my best friend for years. He was like a brother to me. And Lisa was the love of my life. I immediately called him. He didn't pick up. My mind raced, my hands shaking as I tried to process what was happening. There was no way this was real. There had to be a mistake. But the more I thought about it, the more everything started to make sense. Lisa had been acting different lately. She was distant, distracted, and every time I tried to talk to her about it, she'd brush me off, telling me she was just busy with work or stressed out. And now I realized it wasn't work. It wasn't stress. It was Jake. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't process it. I drove straight to their apartment, my hands clenched tightly around the steering wheel. I wasn't thinking clearly. My mind was a blur of confusion, rage, and betrayal. I had to see for myself. When I knocked on the door, there was no answer at first. I knocked again, harder this time, until I heard footsteps from inside. And then there she was. Lisa opened the door, her eyes wide with surprise. But there was something in her face, something that immediately told me she knew what I was there for. Ryan, what's wrong? She asked, her voice shaky. I didn't say anything. I just held up my phone, showing her Jake's message. Her face went pale. She opened her mouth to say something, but no words came out. Is it true? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. She hesitated, then nodded. "I'm so sorry, Ryan," she said quietly. "I never meant for you to find out like this. I've been seeing Jake for months now. It just happened." My body went cold. The words hit me like a ton of bricks. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. This wasn't supposed to be my life. This wasn't supposed to happen to me. "I don't understand," I said, my voice breaking. "How could you do this to me? How could you do this to us?" Lisa took a deep breath, her eyes filled with tears. It wasn't supposed to go this far. It was supposed to be just something casual, something we'd both move past. But I got caught up in it. I didn't know how to stop. I felt like the world was collapsing around me. The woman I had loved, the woman I thought I could trust, had betrayed me. And not just with anyone, with my best friend. My anger was building, but it wasn't the kind of anger I was used to. It wasn't the kind of anger that just makes you yell and storm off. This was deeper. This was a cold, hollow kind of anger. The kind that makes you question everything you thought you knew. "Why, Jake?" I asked, my voice shaking. "Because he understood me," she whispered. "He listened to me when you didn't. He made me feel seen." "Is that what this was about?" I asked, my voice rising. "You felt like I wasn't paying attention? You felt ignored. So you turned to him?" She nodded. "I never meant to hurt you, Ryan. But it happened, and now, I don't know what to do." I stepped back, my mind racing. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think straight. The betrayal was overwhelming. I loved her. I trusted her. And now, I was looking at a complete stranger. "You need to leave," I said, barely able to control my voice. "I need some space. I can't do this right now." She looked at me with tears in her eyes. "Please, Ryan, let's talk about this. Let's work through it." "No," I said firmly, shaking my head. "We're done. This isn't something I can fix." I turned around and walked away, not looking back. I didn't want to see her anymore. I didn't want to hear her apologies. I didn't want to hear anything. All I wanted was to get out of that apartment, to escape the world that had just shattered before me. As I walked to my car, I couldn't stop the tears from falling. I had loved her. I had given her everything. And now I was left standing alone, wondering how the hell I was supposed to move on from this. I didn't know what to do after I walked out of that apartment. I drove around for hours, not really paying attention to where I was going. Every street sign, every familiar corner, felt like a reminder of what I had lost. I kept replaying the conversation in my head, wondering where things went wrong, wondering if there was something I could have done differently. But deep down, I knew there was nothing I could have done. The damage was done, and no amount of apologizing or reasoning would fix it. I spent the night at a friend's place. I didn't want to go back to my apartment. I couldn't face it. I didn't want to be alone, but I also didn't want to talk. I just wanted to sleep and forget. I tried to numb everything, but the memories of Lisa kept creeping in like ghosts I couldn't shake. The next morning, my phone buzzed with messages. I didn't have to look at them to know who they were from, but I opened the first one anyway. It was from Jake. "Ryan, I'm so sorry. I know I fucked up, and I don't know how to fix it. Please, let's talk." My hands were shaking as I read the message. I thought about calling him, confronting him, screaming at him for everything he had done. But the more I thought about it, the less I wanted to engage with him. What was the point? He had betrayed me too, and there was no coming back from that. I didn't reply to his message. I didn't even bother. I couldn't even look at his name without feeling nauseous. Instead, I focused on the only thing I could control, myself. I had to pull myself together to find some semblance of normalcy in the chaos that was now my life. A few days later, I received another message, this time from Lisa. "Ryan, please. I need to see you. I can't live with this anymore." I didn't respond. Not because I didn't care, but because I knew that seeing her again wouldn't do either of us any good. What was there to say? She had made her choice, and I wasn't about to be the one to clean up the mess she had created. But then came a call. I was sitting on my couch, scrolling through my phone when it rang. I didn't recognize the number, but something in me told me to pick up. "Hello," I said cautiously. "Ryan?" a shaky voice said on the other end. It was Lisa. My heart sank. I didn't know what to say, so I stayed silent. I need to see you," she said, her voice breaking. "Please, just let me explain. I owe you that much." Part of me wanted to hang up, to ignore her, and let her deal with the consequences of her actions. But another part of me, the part that still loved her, wanted to hear her out, even if it would only bring more pain. "Where do you want to meet?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. She suggested a park near where we had first met. It was the place we used to go when we wanted to get away from the world, to talk about our dreams, our future. The irony of it all hit me as I drove there. It was the last place I wanted to be with her, but I couldn't back out now. When I arrived, she was already there, sitting on a bench, her head down. I could see that she had been crying, but that didn't matter to me anymore. I sat down next to her, a few inches between us, feeling the weight of the silence that hung in the air. "I don't know where to begin," Lisa said after a long pause, her voice quiet and raw. "You don't have to," I said, my tone cold. "I already know everything." Her face crumpled, and I could see the tears starting to fall again. "I'm so sorry, Ryan," she whispered. "I never meant to hurt you. I never wanted to lose you. You didn't just hurt me," I said, the anger finally starting to rise. "You shattered everything. You tore apart everything I thought we had. You lied, you cheated, and you kept it all hidden from me. You didn't just hurt me, Lisa. You betrayed me." She reached for my hand, but I pulled it away. "Please," she begged, her voice desperate. "Please, let me explain. It wasn't supposed to happen like this." "Then why did it?" I asked, my voice rising. "Why did you let it go on for so long? Why didn't you come to me? You made a choice, Lisa. You chose him, and now you want me to just forgive you." "I never wanted to hurt you," she said again, her eyes filled with tears. I was confused. I thought I was doing the right thing by keeping a secret. But now I see how much I've messed up, and I can't undo it. I can't fix it. I stood up abruptly, unable to sit there any longer. "No, you can't, and neither can I." "Ryan, please," she cried. "Don't walk away from me." I turned away, walking toward my car without saying another word. The pain was too much. I had to leave, had to get away from her before I said something I would regret. I didn't look back. Now subscribe, cause next story is just fire. It's funny how quickly everything can change. One moment, you're living a life you think you know, and the next, everything is upended, and you're left scrambling to make sense of it. I was sitting in the car, the keys still in my hand, staring at the house I thought was my home, the place I thought I'd be spending the rest of my life. But now, standing there in the silence, I wasn't sure where my life was going anymore. Her name was Sarah. We met in college, a typical meet cute if there ever was one. She was sitting in a coffee shop across the street from campus, reading a book, wearing those oversized glasses that somehow made her look both adorable and mysterious. I was a shy guy back then, never one to make the first move. But something about her pulled me in. I walked over to ask if the seat across from her was taken, and she smiled and gestured for me to sit. It was easy after that. We talked for hours about everything and nothing until the sun began to set and the coffee shop was closing. That was the night I knew. I knew she was the one. We dated for 2 years before getting engaged. The proposal was everything I dreamed of: a weekend getaway, a quiet cabin in the woods, and a small, intimate dinner by the fireplace. Sarah said yes without hesitation, and I thought everything was perfect. But that was before I started noticing the small changes. I didn't think much of them at first, dismissing them as stress or work pressure. Sarah had always been a go-getter, determined and driven, and sometimes that meant long hours. But after a while, I started to realize it wasn't just work. It was something else. She stopped texting me back as quickly. She'd forget to return my calls, leaving me messages that felt more like an afterthought than a priority. Her smiles seemed forced, and the spark we once had started to dim. One night, I decided to surprise her with a dinner. Nothing fancy, just takeout from her favorite place and a quiet evening at home. I wanted to remind her of the simple things, of the way we used to be. I called her, but she didn't pick up. I left a voicemail, but she didn't call back. That was the first time I felt the knot in my stomach. I told myself it was nothing. Maybe she was busy, but deep down I knew it wasn't. When she finally came home late that night, she seemed off. Her usual, "Hey babe," was replaced with a half-hearted smile and she barely acknowledged me before heading straight for the bathroom. I didn't want to push, but I couldn't help it. I waited until she came out. "Hey," I said, trying to keep my voice calm. "Everything okay?" She nodded quickly, but her eyes wouldn't meet mine. "Yeah, just tired. Work's been crazy." I wasn't convinced, but I let it slide. The next few days were more of the same. She started staying out later, going out with friends more often. Whenever I asked her about it, she'd brush it off with a quick, "It's nothing." But nothing was starting to feel like everything. Then came a night I finally couldn't ignore it anymore. I came home from work early to surprise Sarah, to try again to reconnect. But when I walked into the living room, my heart stopped. There, sitting on the couch, was Sarah, and she wasn't alone. She was sitting with Jake, my best friend. I stood there frozen, staring at the two of them. I couldn't even process what I was seeing. They were talking, laughing, as if everything was perfectly normal. But nothing was normal. "What the hell is going on?" I finally managed to say, my voice shaky. Sarah looked up, her eyes widening with shock. Jake stood up quickly, but didn't say anything. He knew what this was. He knew what he had done. "Ryan, it's not what you think," Sarah said quickly, standing up and walking toward me. I shook my head, stepping back. "Not what I think." "Really? Then explain to me why my best friend is here, sitting on our couch, laughing with you like this is normal." Sarah looked down, her face flushing. She didn't say anything for a long moment, and then, finally, she spoke. "I've been seeing Jake for the last few months." The world seemed to tilt on its axis. I didn't know how to react. Everything I thought I knew about her, about us, had just come crashing down. "I'm sorry, Ryan. I didn't mean for this to happen. I never wanted to hurt you." I didn't know what to say. I couldn't speak. All I could hear was the ringing in my ears. I wanted to shout, to yell, to scream at them both. But nothing came out. Jake stood there awkwardly, clearly uncomfortable, but still not saying a word. The betrayal wasn't just coming from Sarah. It was coming from both of them. They had both lied to me. They had both been hiding this from me for months, pretending everything was fine while they were together. "I didn't want it to happen like this," Sarah continued, tears in her eyes. "But I've been feeling so lost. And Jake, he was just there. He understood me. He made me feel important again." Important again? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. The woman I loved, the woman I thought I was going to spend my life with, had fallen for my best friend. And all I could do was stand there, speechless. "This doesn't just hurt me, Sarah," I finally said, my voice cold. "It's not just about what you did to me. It's about what you did to us. You lied. You cheated. You betrayed me." She didn't answer. She just looked at me with those pleading eyes, but I couldn't look at her the same way anymore. "I can't do this," I said, turning to walk out the door. "I'm done." When I walked out of that house that night, I swear my legs were moving, but I couldn't feel them. My chest was heavy, my throat burned, and the world outside looked the same but felt completely different. I sat in my car, gripping the steering wheel, trying to breathe, but every inhale just made it worse. The betrayal, the humiliation, the raw ache of knowing the two people I trusted most had been hiding something like this from me. I didn't drive right away. I just sat there, staring at the quiet street, the porch light glowing behind me. In that moment, my entire life felt like it had been erased. The future I thought I had, the memories I thought were real, the love I thought was strong enough to last, gone in an instant. I finally started the car and drove. Not home, because that house didn't feel like home anymore. Not to my parents' place, because I couldn't face them yet. I just drove until I ended up at the riverfront, where the city lights bounced off the water like broken glass. I called my sister. She was the only person I felt I could talk to right then. When she answered, I didn't even get words out at first. Just silence. She must have heard the crack in my breathing, because she said, "Ryan, what's wrong?" And that was it. I broke. I told her everything, every detail, stumbling over my words as I choked them out. She didn't interrupt, didn't try to fill the silence, just let me pour it out. When I was done, she said, "Come here, right now." I did. I drove to her place, and when she opened the door, she hugged me tighter than she ever had before. That hug cracked the wall I was building around myself, and I let myself cry into her shoulder. The next few days were a blur. Sarah tried calling me, texting me, leaving long voicemails begging for me to at least talk to her. I couldn't. Every time her name popped up on my screen, my stomach turned. Jay tried reaching out too, but I blocked him immediately. The nerve of him, after what he did. My sister sat me down one evening, handed me a beer, and said, "You've got two choices, Ree. You either stay in this pain, or you start figuring out who you are without them." And that hit me. Who was I without Sarah? I had built so much of my identity around her, around us, that I'd forgotten what it meant to just be me. That night, I pulled out an old notebook I hadn't touched in years. Back in college, before life got too busy, I used to write songs. Nothing professional, just me and my guitar, scribbling down lines and chords. I hadn't done it in forever. But now, with everything I was feeling, I picked it back up. The words poured out. Anger, grief, betrayal, even those little sparks of hope I didn't want to admit were still inside me. Writing was the first time since that night that I felt like I could breathe again. Weeks turned into months. The first time I saw Sarah again was at the grocery store. I turned into the cereal aisle, and there she was, holding a basket, looking like she hadn't slept in days. Our eyes met, and for a second, it was like time froze. She walked up slowly. "Ryan," she said softly. I didn't say her name back. I just nodded. I know I have no right to ask this, but how are you? That question, that simple human question, hit me harder than I expected. I wanted to say I was fine, that I was stronger without her, that I didn't need her. But the truth, I was still figuring it out. Moving forward, I said finally. Her eyes watered, but she smiled weakly. "I'm glad. You deserve that." And just like that, she walked away. That was the closure I didn't know I needed. It wasn't some big dramatic apology. It wasn't her begging me to come back. It was just two people standing in the middle of a grocery store, realizing that the story they thought they were writing together had ended, and new chapters were starting separately. Jake, I never heard from him again. My sister told me months later he moved to another city. Honestly, I didn't care where he went. He was no longer part of my story. As for me, I rebuilt slowly. I leaned on my sister, on old friends, on the music I'd buried away for years. And every day, the ache got a little smaller, the weight a little lighter. I'm not saying I'm perfectly healed. Heartbreak leaves scars you carry forever. But I'm standing, and I'm moving, and I'm breathing again. If there's one thing I learned through all this, it's that betrayal doesn't define you. How you rise after it does. And hey, if you made it this far, it means something in this story stuck with you. Do me a favor, tap that like button, hit subscribe, and check out my other videos for more stories that will keep you hooked. It helps me more than you know, and I promise there are plenty more coming your way.